Hello, my friends. This past Sunday afternoon, my throat was hurting. Not from any sickness, but from reading over 100 pages of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe out loud to a few of my children. I've read it before, a chapter at a time over a stretch of evenings, but that was some years ago, and the younger ones don't really remember. We started it again recently, each night's session ending with a plea for one more chapter, and me usually agreeing. When Sunday afternoon rolled around, we settled in, and with no place to go, we just pressed on, eventually completing the book. I've enjoyed watching the creativity of the children burst through over the past few weeks. On the sunny afternoon, cries of "For Aslan! For Narnia!" could be heard coming from our backyard. Each of the children selected a character to be from the story in their adventures. Initially armed with sticks, they started the process of fashioning more accurate weapons from cardboard. Meticulously painted and detailed, I've been impressed with the results. Peter's sword and shield, Lucy's dagger and vial of potion, Susan's bow and arrows and magic horn, even a lance for a dryad or a battle axe for a dwarf. One character was always conspicuously absent, though, at least before Sunday and the last half of the story for sure. Nobody wanted to be Edmund. I can't say I blame them. I've read the story a number of times before, but Edmund's awfulness really struck out at me in a new way this time. He's just terrible. Maybe it's because I'm older and have more experience with people and as a parent, but I found myself disliking him intensely as I read this time. He's so selfish and so cruel, so arrogant and foolish. But as though being doused by cold water, the reality of who he represents washed over me almost all at once shortly after a reading session last week. I've known and understood the symbolism of the book for many years, so it's not as if this was a new revelation. But for some reason, it felt like it. Edmund represents sinful man. His self-centeredness is our selfishness. His cruelty is our malice. His arrogance is our pride. His foolishness is our folly. He is me. Knowing that in the story, Aslan is meant to represent Jesus, the way he deals with Edmund is sobering. The lion does not dismiss Edmund's treachery. The scene is written so that the seriousness of the offense is felt, both by the characters and the reader. Yet, there is no roar, not here. No berating, no scolding, no expression of anger or bitterness or resentment. Grief, perhaps, but also gentleness, understanding, and above all, mercy. Rather than turning Edmund over to the White Witch to receive what he rightly deserved for betraying his siblings and the people of Narnia, Aslan steps in and takes his place. He gives his own blood to satisfy the debt. There had been a part of me that wanted Edmund to receive his comeuppance. He had been so terrible. But when I think about who he represents, that changes. When it's somebody else, I want justice. When it's me, I want mercy, compassion, understanding, and forgiveness. The truth presented in that story is beautiful. It's such an accurate portrayal of the reality of the gospel. As the symbolism of the story worked through my mind again, the words of Jesus kept coming back to me over and over. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. It's one of the most profound statements that Jesus ever made. And that's saying something. While hanging on the cross, enduring agony that I can't really even imagine, all for the sins of the very ones who were mocking him as he died, he said these words and showed us the most amazing qualities. It's been said by a number of different people in a number of different settings that adversity doesn't build character, but that it reveals it. I'm not sure if I completely agree with that, but I understand the point being made. The difficult times often show who a person really is. In the hardest moments anyone has ever endured, Jesus demonstrated mercy, compassion, understanding, and forgiveness. I'm too often more like Edmund than I'd really like to admit. And like Edmund, I don't think most of us really understand the awfulness of our sin or the terrible cost. But God does. And yet, He loves us. The character demonstrated by Jesus on the cross, that is who He really is. Strong enough to bear the weight of our sin, gentle enough to love us right in the middle of that. C.S. Lewis made no attempt to justify or rationalize Edmund's actions in the book. There was nothing he could do to undo them. Yet, what the reader is left with is not a sense of resentment towards Edmund, but an overwhelming sense of awe for Aslan. That is how it should be. My sins are great. But what I should do in the wake of what Christ has done is not focus on who I am, but who Jesus is. When I think about Him hanging on that cross in my place and saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, it stirs something deep inside me. It makes me want to honor that sacrifice. It makes me want to be more loyal to the one who said those words. It makes me want to fight against the wickedness of my flesh and the wickedness around me. Part of that fight and part of honoring that sacrifice is taking whatever steps are necessary to eliminate sinful behaviors from my life. It is, like Edmund, taking up a sword and joining the thick of the battle against the wickedness of this world. Another part is getting back up when I have fallen and refusing to give up, refusing to stop fighting for holiness. Jesus purchased my forgiveness with His precious blood, and through faith grants me freedom from the power of sin over me. I cannot undo what I've done. I cannot earn my pardon, but my pardon has already been secured. So I don't fight to earn what I cannot, but because of what I've already been given. I know what I deserve. The adversary, my accuser, likes to remind me of it. But when I look to Jesus, I don't see an accuser. I see an Aslan. I see a gracious and merciful Redeemer. And I don't hear a voice of disgust, but, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And then, like Aslan, I hear a resurrected roar of victory. And I'm inspired to keep fighting. Pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, steadfastness, gentleness. Fight the good fight of faith. Take hold of the eternal life to which you were called. 1 Timothy 6, 11 and 12.